So I'm writing a book. If you want more information on that, make sure you're signed up for my newsletter. But part of the book that I've been working on is understanding the importance of our early sexual experiences and how they shape the rest of our sexual life. Understanding, analyzing, unpacking these experiences is so important for so many reasons. There's a lot to learn from them, number one, but they also shape how we act, how we behave, how we see the world, the meaning that we make. Men are like this, women are like this, sex is like this. If you had early sexual experiences that taught you that sex is dangerous, sex causes hurt feelings, sex is harmful, or that sex is good, is fun, is healthy, is safe, this actually makes a tremendous difference for how you carry on into your adult life and your relationships in the future. If you think about it, early sexual experiences have a way larger impact on how you behave sexually than experiences that you have later on. And that's because anytime that it's your first time doing something, or the first time getting hurt, or the first time causing harm, it's gonna stay with you, right? It informs and it shapes the way that you move throughout the world. So when we look back on early sexual experiences and we learn from them, we actually can understand a lot more about how we are today. And one of the things that comes up often when I talk to men about their early sexual experiences, especially in the wake of the Me Too movement, is a feeling of regret or concern or even shame. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the Me Too movement, it really came to mainstream attention in 2017, specifically around the Harvey Weinstein scandal, and it brought a lot of awareness and attention to the way that sexual assault, harassment, and rape were a really big part of our culture that we were not talking about. Sometimes in the workplace, like in the entertainment industry, but also that Me Too, as in me also, as in other women, had similar experiences, and they were finally talking about it publicly and openly. The culture of shame and secrecy had begun to be pulled away and exposed. And this is a really good thing. But one of the consequences of the Me Too movement is that men became really aware of the ways that they were engaging with consent and sex in ambiguous ways. Like the ways that they had been brought up and what they had learned about sex maybe weren't working, maybe they weren't ethical, maybe they weren't the way that they wanted to conduct themselves anymore. It caused a larger conversation, but one of the things that it also caused is that men who were maybe more conscious of the way that they were engaging with women began to look at some of their previous sexual experiences and see that maybe they had been problematic. Maybe they had pushed someone beyond their boundaries. Maybe they hadn't gotten consent when they needed to. Maybe those early college days that were drunken and before we knew about consent or had these more nuanced conversations about sexuality, maybe some of the stuff that you did then wasn't really okay in light of what you have learned. And that's what I wanted to talk about today. Because it's true, there are changing norms. There are changing societal expectations around boundaries, around communication. This has shifted dramatically since we were young. And when we reflect on past experiences, we may come across some things that cause us to recognize that we did things that were inappropriate, that we have regrets about gray areas of consent. Especially if you had a period in college, like many of us did, where you drank a lot of alcohol and you were sort of promised that college was this big, like, hookup promiscuity party that you were supposed to be attending. Not just that, but all of us were raised with really problematic ideas about consent, like you should continue to be persistent, or like don't take her first no for an answer. We didn't have this idea of enthusiastic consent that we do now. So I want to talk about how this has contributed to misunderstandings. I want to talk about how to feel accountable for things that you have done and how to like really allow yourself to forgive yourself for mistakes that you have made in the past. Feeling shame or feeling like you've done something wrong is only useful insofar as you allow it to inform how you move in the future. But being buried in shame or not allowing yourself to approach women or to date or to be a sexual person is not the answer. So if you realize that you have done something that potentially caused harm, acknowledging that first for yourself. Sometimes it's appropriate to reach out to the other person and apologize to them, but sometimes it's not. I mean, if this happened 15 or 20 years ago, you could actually cause a lot more harm by bringing it up. So get right with yourself. Maybe write an apology letter and then burn it. Maybe have a conversation with a therapist or a coach, but be accountable for yourself while understanding that it doesn't make you a bad person to have made a mistake. Also, what I think we can all take away from the Me Too movement is that it is not enough to just get like a verbal yes. We want to look for a partner inside of any sexual environment where we have someone who is enthusiastically consenting, where they are not just a yes, but they are a yes, where they are not just not a no, but they are engaged and informed and specific about what they want to do and how they want to do it. What I think men need to take from this more than anything else is that you do have a responsibility to understand that because of the way that women have been raised and how we have been conditioned, a lot of us are willing to go past our own boundaries, to blow past our own no, to do things that we really don't want to do, to have sex that we don't even want to have because we feel like we should be having it. And this isn't an example of when someone says no, this is when someone says yes but doesn't really mean it. In a perfect world, women would be the ones to hold their boundaries. We would be the ones to say, you know what, I'm good with making out tonight and I'm good with oral sex, but I'm not okay with penetration. In a perfect world, women would be able to have those conversations and we would maintain our own boundaries perfectly all the time. But the truth is that we don't live in that world. And Me Too has offered an overcorrection that I think is necessary, where men have a higher level of responsibility to check in with their partner, to read her body language, to see that, you know what, she said yes, but it doesn't really seem like she's into this. It kind of seems like she's disassociated. She's not paying attention. It seems like she's just tolerating the sex that we're having or putting up with it or violating her own best interests and her own desires on my behalf. It's your responsibility to pause and check in and stop and say, you know, I'm not going to have sex with you unless it's something that you really want to have. Supporting your woman in holding her own boundaries is what makes you a safe and loving space that she can actually relax into and desire and enjoy. Another thing that you can do as a result of being aware of this is support your fellow men. Challenge locker room talks. Support healthy conversations between men about these difficult conversations. Be a leader. Initiate those conversations. Or when you see a man speaking about a woman in a disrespectful or objectifying way, say something about it. This is what creates the culture where all of us can feel safe to be sexual. And if you find yourself feeling guilt or shame over things that happened in the past, understand that we're always evolving. Change is a constant. You are doing the best that you can with what you have at the time. I believe that's true for all of us. You may have things you need to rectify, things you can take accountability for, but understand the difference between guilt, which is I did something wrong or bad, and shame, which is I am wrong or bad. You can do things that you regret, that you would do differently now with what you know now, and it doesn't make you a bad person. Understand that you are a growing, changing, living, evolving being. Give yourself permission to shift and to change and do the work that is required to become the kind of man that you want to see in the world, the kind of man that you want for your friends, your daughter, your mom, your cousins, your aunts to interact with, both in a romantic and sexual way and in a platonic way. You can make a tremendous amount of difference, way more than you will ever know, just by taking the advice from this video and moving forward in a way that is growth oriented and constantly trying to improve so that you can always be doing your best. I'm Caitlin V. I hope that this video was helpful. Please feel free to add into the comments anything that I missed regarding this conversation, thoughts that you've had, ways that you have worked through and forgiven yourself, and the ways that you have committed to doing better in the future. Thank you so much for watching and for subscribing, and I will see you here next week.